Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. I feel like this shirt is really tight. This is like my Steven Slate shirt. So in this vlog, I want to cover an area that I find underrepresented, especially on my channel, which is relationship building and the relationship that you have, the all-important relationship that you have as a composer with the director. One person who's really kicking ass in this regard, talking about the human relations aspect, is Christian Henson. He is doing a really good job of sort of explaining and helping you navigate the relationships and the kind of people that you're going to encounter in your trajectory as someone making music for media. And I've wanted to make this video for a long time. It's just I've been super busy with my own personal stuff, but came to a point where I was having some of the problems that I wanted to discuss in this video recently with the director, and it was just like, I have to make this video. So I'm going to be talking about some things that you might encounter and maybe how to negotiate the obstacles associated with those encounters, namely working with directors or working with first-time directors, or maybe it's your first time working with a director. That relationship that you have with that director is going to be really important to manage and foster and build. But it's also going to be it's going to be really important for you to also keep some distance and set some rules and parameters for how you want that relationship to go. And I've made the mistake before of getting a little bit too friendly with the director. I've often made the mistake of being a little bit too aloof, a little bit too in the background, and not as responsive as I could be. These tips are going to be about managing that relationship, the do's and don'ts, all that stuff. The first, I guess, great big thing that I want to talk to you guys about here is, I guess, rule number one is set limits and advocate for your sanity. So what I mean by this is I've found that directors as a personality, I think Christian Henson has talked about this a little bit on his channel. He refers to them as narcissists. I'm not sure if the director was the narcissist or people that he worked with were narcissists, but in my experience, and I guess if I'm putting this really delicately, directors are, by nature, very creative, inventive people who pour a lot of their energy into some sort of creative project. And we don't meet a lot of people like that. Most people you meet are very straight-laced and goal-oriented and all the rest of it. Directors, a lot of the directors that I've met and worked with are just very creative, wonky people. And with that comes a certain personality type that often doesn't always lend itself to a really good working relationship in any capacity, not just with a composer, but with a producer or whatever. They're often, they can be their own worst enemies because they're trying to get some goal completed, in this case, their film and everything. And a lot of people end up getting the brunt of a bad day. And so I found that, I guess, the first thing you should do is just know that I don't want to paint all directors with the same brush, but if you give directors, at least in my experience, if you give them an inch, they will try and take a mile. What I mean by this is, know what you're doing when you're giving out your phone number to a director. I always try and keep email. I was handing out business cards for Isotope, and I remember someone, just as I had all my business cards printed, were like, I never leave my phone number on there because I just get texts from people that I forgot that I handed my card out to. It just gets crazy. The same thing happens with a director. If you give your phone number out, you are basically saying, you're opening the door and saying, I am okay with you texting or calling me. That's what that communicates. If you give them your email, then what that says is, I will check your message when I have the time. You do not have access to my personal life 24 hours. You cannot just call or whatever. I am putting you in this category because this is where I'm able to manage incoming messages and read and think and then write back and all the rest of it. I've made that mistake of giving out my phone number to people. And what that does is it just sends a message that, like, you can text me, call me, or, I'm going to text you or call you back if you text me or call me. So you have to be aware that you're opening a door there and you're letting them in to a kind of aspect of your life that should maybe be reserved for just friends and family and not for directors and people you work with. Even at Isotope, a lot of us use GChat and Hangouts and all the rest of it. We're not texting each other constantly unless we're friends and we have friend things to talk about. But when it comes to work, we have a different platform and we use predominantly email. So be aware that you are letting them into this kind of friend zone, this kind of friend circle. And that can be kind of dangerous because the other really important thing to do is to set those limits, because give an inch, take a mile. If you are someone who says to the director right up front, listen, my hours are 9 to 5, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. And hey, a lot of creative things happen in that time, a lot of play rehearsals or whatever. Everyone gets to set or they get to the theater or whatever at 10 p.m. Rehearsals go till 8. That's it. No more. A couple breaks in between. If you are responding to text messages that are being sent to you at 9:30 past the hour that you've said that you're available or that you're working, or if you're responding to text messages on the weekend and you've said, listen, I work from Monday to Friday, and then from Saturday and Sunday, that's the time I'm with my significant other, blah, 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 I have other commitments and responsibilities, you are basically allowing a dialogue to go back and forth and making it acceptable for them to be texting you at those hours. Part of imposing limits and advocating for your sanity is going, I'm not going to text you just because you texted me. You don't get to do that. Like we are not going to, we are going to have a professional relationship where I'm working between these and these hours. And outside of those hours, unless it's an emergency, you have no reasonable expectation of getting a text or an email back from me. And I know this is tricky for some people because a lot of people, myself included, when I first started, I wanted to be, I'm always on my phone, I'm always checking my whatever. But that has consequences. You know, you'll be out with your friend or you'll be doing something and you'll get a text from the director who's saying, you know, I'm sitting with the editor now, we have a picture lock and it's coming in like 2 hours, be ready for it, blah, blah, blah. You know, and that's going to be my next point. But you are just allowing someone into the orbit of your personal life, and it creates a lot of anxiety. I don't like getting texts and all that stuff, so I try and not give out my number. And that as a sort of first and foremost, like before we start this relationship, it's going to be email only. Here's my email address. I do check it very often. So, you know, hope you're okay with that sort of thing. I've had issues where I've gotten very friendly with directors before, and this isn't really the phone number texting back and forth sort of thing. Moving away from that now. I've made the mistake of becoming a kind of like a friend to a lot of directors. And I should say, by the way, if you're working with people that you know really well and have grown up with and are your friends that are directors, that's fine. Obviously gauge, you know, the extent to which you want to have that relationship with someone. But if it's someone for the first time, you got to be careful, because I did this thing where there was this guy, and he was just barely getting a script off the ground. And he wanted to meet with me, the composer, like, because I guess he liked me, or he liked my ideas. And in reality, I was just trying to play ball and trying to be like a good correspondent and always making sure that I wrote him back and everything. And I think he mistook that for a bit of friendship, and he was really serious about just making sure that we hung out a lot and spent a lot of time together. And we go to this coffee shop, this place called Aroma in the Annex. And he'd just sit there and like, what do you think? I just wrote this page. What do you think, Jeff? And I'm just like, I don't know, man. You're the director / writer. Like you know, it's your thing, dude. I have no idea. And I think he kind of resented the fact that I didn't want that relationship to go any further than I'm the composer, text me, or not text me, email me when you have a picture lock, which is when the picture is totally finished, the movie's finished, there's no more editing. There might be some color correcting, but the bottom line is you're going to write your cues, the picture is locked. Therefore, if you write a cue, send it back, they make an edit, you know, your cues are all messed up. So, and it got to the point where I think it was in Canada Day that, you know, he was texting me, or he was trying to call me or something about a deadline or something where we're working on. I mean, the script wasn't even finished. And like, I just ignored him because it's Canada Day and we're not best friends. And like, it's the day that like all Canadians have off to celebrate Canada Day. And the day after Canada Day, I just got this huge text from him that was like, he was quoting like Game of Thrones characters, and it was like all these spelling mistakes. He was writing it super angry and everything. It was just hilarious that I totally underestimated the extent to which we were this team, and it was crazy. So you have to establish boundaries, advocate for your sanity, and really set up parameters to what you want the relationship to be like, the kind of correspondence you want, hours you're going to write that person back, the means of correspondence, texting, email, all that stuff, because all of it is going to contribute to your own anxiety and your own nervousness about the project, and that stuff leaks into the cues. It's just a really bad working environment for you as a composer. You want to be someone that, you know, gets instruction and all that stuff, and then you can go to the top of your mountain like some monk and just go off and work on your own stuff. Then you come back down from the mountain when you have a cue and you present it to the director. You don't want to be with that director 24/7 with your iPhone next to your keyboard, getting texts and all that stuff. It's just not a good look. So try to establish those boundaries very early on. And I think there's a kind of respect there if you do that. I think that a lot of directors and all that stuff, you know, if they can't reach you right away, that's a sign to them that like, hey, this person is their own person. They are not just my whipping boy, and they have their own priorities and responsibilities, and I'm going to respect that. So that's number one. Set parameters, don't get too close, and advocate for your sanity. And that's what you really are advocating for. You're advocating for a clear mind, a good working relationship, and that's what you're doing. Tip number 2, take with a grain of salt what a director says about timelines. And what I mean by this is, you know, I can't tell you the amount of times I've had to postpone a holiday or tell my girlfriend we have to come home early or whatever, because I've gotten an email that says, Jeff, I'm sitting with the editor. We are, you know, 5 seconds away from picture lock. You know, I'm going to send you the files tonight, blah, 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 blah. And I go, we got to go home. I got to go home. Like, the director's going to whatever. And then I get home and there's nothing for like 3 hours. The reason why this happens is a lot of first-time directors, they are new to their craft and they are maybe not aware of all the other stuff that happens in addition to just editing the picture. It's got to go to the coloring or color grading person, might go through another couple of rounds of edits. Maybe they'll see an edit, they'll walk away for 15 minutes, come back after sending you that email that's like, be at the ready, and they'll decide they want to change something, or the editor won't have time anymore, or there's all kinds of reasons why you should not jump up and down every time the director says, here comes the cue, get ready to write, or, the deadline's coming up or whatever. Only work when you have that WAV file, Dropbox, whatever. Only work when you see that actually in your email, when you have the attachment there. Don't get nervous and anxious because there's an incoming project and it means you have to start working on it right away. Again, a lot of first-time directors are in over their heads. They're unaware of all the responsibilities that go into getting an edit made or anything, especially first-time directors, I had this director who I'm actually working with. We're still working on a project together, and he's got a short film, a feature film, and a documentary. And we met back in September or October, I think. And he said October's going to be the short film. December's going to be, it's going to be light, but October's going to be short film. November's going to be the feature film, and then December, January is going to be the documentary. It's late January, and we're still working on the short film. So I'll just put it that way. Timelines change, priorities change. People get sick, people go on vacation, all this stuff. Don't think that your life has to stop moving because you got an email or a text that said, I need you to be here in 10 minutes or whatever, because chances are things are going to change. It's going to get even more edited. It's going to come back. They're going to, I've worked on cues before, and in the middle of the cue, I'll get an email saying, we just scrapped that whole scene. Forget about it. We're moving with a different direction now, because it's very much a decision by committee thing now, which is kind of unfortunate. It used to be like one person is leading the project, but now it's like your cue goes to an editor. It goes to the production assistant. It goes to the director, it goes to most often the producer who's bankrolling the whole film. Sometimes the director occupies a whole bunch of roles, but now I find cues and just every aspect of the movie is just this sort of, it's review by committee. So that impedes the notion that that you need to be there at a certain time too, even further. So, be very wary of that email or that text message that says like, you got to be ready, or I hope you're not going on vacation anytime soon because we're about to, until you see the goods, don't react. That would be the second part of my advice. And the last thing that I have to say is stay as professional as possible throughout the process. And this, this sort of professionalism, this is so good because what this does is this sets the tone for your reputation in the industry. What I mean by this is, if you have a friend that's on the film, on the picture, let's say your friend is the editor. Let's say the director said, hey, hey, Jeff, hey, composer, do you know any great colorists or editors or whatever? Even if you are friends with that editor and you say, yeah, let's bring Jack on. They bring Jack on. I take Jack off. Anyway, that's a stupid joke. They bring Jack on, and then Jack's the editor, and Jack is editing the film, and you're complaining to Jack about the director, and you're saying, hey, Jack, this director, I know I brought you on, but really doesn't know what he's doing, and he's an amateur, but he pays a lot of money. You never want to do that. You never, ever, ever, especially over text or email or whatever, or even just on the phone. Don't corrode the experience for anyone else. The way that I put it is, I heard this from someone a while ago, don't go down the spiral of negativity. That's what it does. Because you tell the editor that the director doesn't know what they're doing. That influences the editor's opinion about the director and colors the relationship between the editor and the director. The director is onto it. Keep a good, positive vibe and a professional vibe for everyone involved and in every aspect of the picture. This industry, look, there's Hans Zimmer and like 5 other people scoring all the movies in the world right now. It's a small industry, and it's really small now, and your job now as you're sort of ascending, as you're taking off this big rocket ship as a composer, is to establish your reputation as a good composer, someone that is reliable, but also someone who is good to work with. And if you're known as someone who is catty, someone who complains, someone who side talks other people, I just invented that term, believe it or not, this will leak out. It will come to, it'll hit someone's phone, it'll hit someone's email, someone will say something about something you said about someone else, or, they're at a party and they go, oh, is that so-and-so? Jeff told me they were really, anyway, try and keep it as professional as possible. It's a super small industry, and the last thing you want is to have this sort of perception that you are the person that has the dirt on everyone and all that stuff. If you are going to dish with someone, make sure that you're doing it in person. There's no email trail or text trail. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like NSA rules. do it next to like a water fountain. Do it next to a waterfall in person. So if you record it, it's hard to scramble the audio and find what you're saying. And just be as professional as possible. People talk. It's a small industry, and it's really hard to get into. And once you're there, you want to make sure that your reputation is as sterling as possible. So set parameters, take deadlines and stuff like that from the director, especially first-time directors, with a grain of salt. Don't let it interrupt your life. Be as professional as possible and enjoy the experience. And I think those three things are a recipe for a really positive, successful, and constructive relationship with a director, whether it's your first time with a director or whether it's the director's first time making a film and working with a composer. Leads to a good experience. So thanks for watching. I'm curious, have you guys ever had really weird relationships with directors? You ever gotten too close? You ever been too aloof, too difficult to reach, to find? I'm wondering if any of this stuff has happened to you, because I really want to hear about it in the comments, because sometimes I feel like I'm alone in this little weird orbit of composing space, especially on YouTube. I don't do a lot of events or go to a lot of networking meetings or whatever, so you guys are kind of like my friends to talk about this stuff with. So do it as anonymously as possible in the comments, and I really want to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and take care.